For more on what it's like to write down Joe Biden's words in real time, let's go to a man who's done it. Mike McCormick is here. He's the author of The Midnight in the Laptop of Good and Evil Substack and a former stenographer for Joe Biden from 2011 to 2017. So under that definition, we can say he's long-suffering. Mike, good to have you with us, sir.
Hey, Vince, great to be back with you.
Okay. So the White House says he wasn't actually calling Trump supporters garbage. They're saying, don't believe your lying ears.
Oh, yeah. Joe Biden would say stuff off the top of his head like that constantly. And sometimes it came back at me. And, my job at that time was protect the principals in the White House. And so I'd kind of help Joe by putting in a dash or something. So this is an example of him getting help from I don't know if the stenographer's office put it in or the White House comms office told the stenographers to put it in this way. If I was writing that transcript, having heard that, I would have made it a plurals word and waited for them to tell me to change it. And, frankly, the way he said it, you can't say he didn't mean that. I mean, it can have that meaning. That's what he's known for. He's such a gaff. He's the king of gaffing. So, you don't know. So, yeah, they could change the transcript. They probably had to do it under orders. And he definitely said it. And he definitely meant we are all garbage if we support Trump.
Alex Thompson is a reporter for Axios, and he said the following last night. He said, I asked the White House how they knew Biden only meant supporter apostrophe S, as they have it in the now public transcript. Did they talk to Biden to ask him what he meant? The spokesperson asked to go off the record. We declined. They didn't comment further. So in other words, like the White House is going out of its way to cover up how this all went down.
Yeah, that's typical. And his comms team they've been jumping through hoops since he got himself in there with a fraudulent election. And that comms team they just ran out of magic to work. And I think there's a real malevolence to Joe Biden. This is something that he has underneath the surface. He's always had it. And this is him sort of taking a shot at Kamala Harris. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what he says anymore. He's just going to say it. And if it comes out, it's Joe Biden, and he's just going to shrug it off. He's the president. In his mind, he's the best president ever. We all know that's coming to a crashing end. But in his mind, he thinks he can do whatever he wants. He's this Joe Biden, the greatest American president ever.
Yeah. One of the features of Biden's presidency, and I wonder your opinion on this, is that every time he speaks, they put a transcript up, or most of the time, they put up a public transcript on the internet. And when they do, they've had to make hundreds of changes or corrections to his literal words. They will put strike-through lines on words. They will put brackets in to tell you what he really meant. They will go out of their way to change the actual transcript in such a way as to correct him. Mike, is in your experience, having done this type of stenography, is that a normal practice?
No, that's not a normal practice. And I didn't have to do it to that extent with him when he was coherent. But obviously, since 2020, he's come in half-baked, and he's deteriorated greatly mentally. He just can't, they've been covering for him. They've been using the transcripts. They're using other methods. It's not working anymore. And here we have it. He's just out there. He's the millstone around the Democratic Party's neck. He's dragging him down to the bottom of the river.
Do you think it's a coincidence that his remarks were being delivered at the same moment that Kamala Harris was holding a rally on his lawn? She was doing she had a rally on the Ellipse just as he was doing this Zoom call with Voto Latino. I don't know who's dreaming this up, unless it's the Biden people who are trying to actively sabotage Kamala, which that's fun too. What do you make of the fact that those events happened at the same time?
Well, that's him definitely pulling an old school, old Paul dirty trick. That's him doing dirty Delaware tricks. No question about it. I was looking at talking about Kamala and transcripts. I was looking at a Kamala Harris transcript that she did at an event in Kalamazoo. She walked out to her overflow crowd who had just heard from Michelle Obama, and she spoke for 2 minutes. The transcript was 2 minutes long. That's the shortest transcript I've ever seen as a White House stenographer in 16 years. There must have been no one in her overflow crowd for her to talk to.
Yeah, that's wild. That seemed insulting. People wait for a very long time because they got to get through Secret Service, and they come in, they stage, and to have somebody just show up for 2 minutes and then bounce, it's almost like an insult.
Yeah, and it's like she didn't know what to say. She didn't have anything to say because in an overflow crowd, there's no teleprompter. So she's got to go out there and speak, and she couldn't do it. She is absent in the office. She is not capable of speaking to a crowd and engaging with a crowd. That's unpresidential.
In your time working with Joe Biden, did you ever witness him, or do you recall his attitude towards voters who disagree with Democrats? Was it always this vicious?
Yeah, he was pretty nasty in 2012, and he tried to go out and do a lot of heavy lifting for Hillary in 2016. That was when he made that threat against Trump. I'll take him out behind the gym. It was 2016. He was up in Pennsylvania. He was like in Scranton, Pennsylvania. That's when he said it. So he's always had this sort of bravado. And, back then, no one paid attention because he was the vice president. No one cared.
Yeah.
But now he's the president, and it comes out, and it's like a disaster.
Well, in 2012, if my memory serves me correctly, is the same year that Biden told a black audience that Mitt Romney, quote, would put y'all back in chains. That was his.
That's right.
That was his attitude in 2012.
That's right. I was down in Virginia, Southern Virginia. And
Danville. It was Danville, Virginia.
Danville, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what happened was he made a comment about Romney, and there was a guy who made an out loud laugh in the audience, and Joe saw him and basically was telling that guy. I didn't see who the guy was in the audience, but I think that it might have been a black voter who Joe was directing that to. And that's Joe being pretty nasty off the cuff. Yeah.
No, here is Joe Biden all the way back in 2012 saying he's going to put you all back in chains.
Look at what they value and look at their budget and what they're proposing. Romney wants to he said in the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
What a psycho.
Yeah. Yep, that's right. That's exactly right. And that's, he thought he was like the cool guy talking to the people. He used to talk to audiences and tell them that, he was talking to these Detroit voters from the hood. And he did this event in a community college in suburban Detroit. And the women were there doing this sort of camp to learn coding camp.
Yeah.
And he kept telling audience, oh yeah, they were from the hood. That's just Joe Biden trying to be cool and just coming out stupid. He does that all the time.
Yeah. My dad tells me a story every so often of Biden came to visit the military guys out in the Middle East while they were all forward deployed. And he goes into a room and he starts cursing like he's a sailor. He's like, we're going to effing do this and blah, blah, blah. It was just like so over the top. And he starts cursing because he thinks it's going to impress all these military guys. And they're all just like, they're being polite. But they're just all rolling their eyes like, please, this is so stupid. He's pretending he's like that he's going to go out there with the Navy SEALs and like take out terrorists. It's just sort of preposterous, but it definitely fits the pattern with Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's right. And there's one other thing, Vince. I want to bring this up. Evgeny Vindman is running for Congress against Derek Anderson.
Yep.
And I think he is involved in covering up for Joe Biden's corruption in Ukraine. I think I've seen, he was in the White House in the NSC in 2018 with his brother, twins. They're both twins. They're both brought in the NSC.
Yep.
His brother was in Ukraine, and he was working for the DOD over there. And Joe Biden and Hunter Biden were actively doing a kickback scheme with a biowarfare contractor called Metabiota. And I know that Alexander Vindman, in his role, would have known about this company. And if they did, Devin Archer did a meeting in the embassy. That's where Vindman worked out of in 2014. He did an embassy meeting in 2014 about this. And so I think the Vindmans knew about this. I think they were put in the NSC. And Derek Anderson has to beat Yevgeny Vindman because Vindman is a deep state guy, and Anderson is a straight up and up guy who can stand up for the American voters.
So you think Vindman was tied up in Hunter Biden's business dealings?
I think they knew about it and they were covering for it. I think that's why they were brought into the NSC in the White House. I think it was some kind of a deep state move that put them in there.
Kind of fascinating. And remember, of course, they were the centerpiece for the impeachment of President Trump as well. So that it all comes back to that. And by the way, on Derek Anderson news, President Trump today said the following on X. He said, Derek Anderson is running to represent the wonderful people of Virginia's 7th Congressional District. He bravely fought for our great country as a Green Beret and was deployed to Afghanistan, Bahrain, Jordan, Israel, and Lebanon. Unlike the current administration, he never left anyone behind. Derek is America first all the way. He's running against a weak and pathetic Democrat named Yevgeny Eugene Vindman, who, along with Adam Shifty Schiff and others, lied to push the Ukraine impeachment hoax, a continuation of the greatest and most dangerous political witch hunt in the history of our country. Derek Anderson has my complete and total endorsement. He will not let you down. And Mike McCormick, that's a seat that could decide control of the entire United States House of Representatives.
That's right. And we can't let Vindman back. If you're in Virginia, get out there and vote, especially if you're in the 7th. Vote for Derek Anderson. And I think Virginia's going to go red. I've heard some good information about Fairfax County voters. There's a lot of low propensity voters who are shifting to the Trump train. And I think the Trump train has got room for Hung Cao and Derek Anderson on it.
It sure does. It has room for a lot of us. We just have to get that train moving. I'm totally with you on that. And people in Virginia, by the way, the early vote goes through Saturday. But you should get it in now. If you have not done it yet, get it in now. Just get all those votes in. They're going to make a world of difference. And Mike McCormick, I'm really appreciative of your time and all the information you always share. Thank you, sir.